Hello and welcome to our Path to Prosperity Roundtable, where senior political and business figures discuss ways for Australia to become a richer nation through productivity gains and technical innovation. My name is Paul Garvey, and joining me here today are Federal Resources and Energy Minister Gary Gray,
Paul.
Atlas Iron Managing Director Ken Brinsden,
Good morning.
and the Head of the Chamber of Minerals and Energy in Western Australia, Reg Howard-Smith.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining me.
Pleasure.
I want to start with the outlook we're facing at the moment. Gary, I want to start with you. People here in Perth say to me that the current conditions are as bad, if not worse, than what we saw during the GFC, given the way the resources sector is performing at the moment. What's the sense in Canberra of the direction that we're headed, both as a country and the region generally?
Well, I think, Paul, I can help at both ends of that because I live in Perth and I spend a lot of time in Canberra. There's no doubt that the outlook for our principal export commodities in the minerals sector remains good in terms of volume. We know prices will start to come down in time, but demand is good, our markets are strong, and our future is a good future. We've been through the part of the cycle which is about construction, often called by people the boom, but in fact the sustained production is what will lay the pathway for the future.
I want to move to you, Ken. I know you spend a lot of time up in China, talking to customers up there and so on. What's the sense that you get from those customers on the ground in China about the direction the economy is heading there?
Well, we get a sense of optimism as a result of the constructive relationships that we have in China, and actually, to my mind, there's nothing to indicate that certainly not to the extent that equity markets have gone negative about China. We don't get that experience when we travel there. Australia and Western Australia in particular, I think are going to benefit for a generation from that growth.
Reg, I know the Chamber's members stretch across the spectrum in the resources space and the energy space. How would you characterise the mood out there among your members?
It reflects the change that's occurring in the sector, and there clearly is a change. The construction, as we've touched upon, is plateauing. Post the gas expansion, particularly around Gorgon and Wheatstone and iron ore expansion, and we do see a significant decline in the construction sector. But on the flip side, we do see quite significant increases in production in the years ahead, particularly in the bulk commodities of iron ore and gas. So that's the positive. But it reflects, the mood reflects the change which is clearly occurring in our resource sector here in Australia.
Gary, how does a transition like this play out at a government level, and what does it mean for things like government revenues in the years ahead?
Well, I think it's clear to say that as we look at the forward pathway of production, what we see in our markets is strong revenue profiles for our minerals exporters, but particularly through LNG with Northern Asian demand.
Just jumping back to Reg for a moment, with these conditions that we're seeing now at the smaller end of the market, outside this building there'd be hundreds, if not thousands, of small exploration companies. What's the outlook like for those players out there? Do they have much of a future if we're into this next stage?
Well, it depends where they're doing business. I went to a major conference in South Africa earlier this year. And South Africa, I might add, being a traditional mining jurisdiction, is not exactly in good shape, and there are messages, the lessons that we can learn from where South Africa is heading. But you look at quite a few of the other African jurisdictions, and what you see there is a tremendous cross-section of the resource sector from this town, from this state. So what's happened, a significant amount of the sector, and Perth will always be home, has actually moved into various African jurisdictions. Now, our challenge is to win them back. And that's the challenge for future exploration and future discoveries and projects.
Okay.
Yeah, and Paul, we can speak with some practical perspective in that regard. Atlas has been active in investment in Africa and, for that matter, Brazil. And if nothing else, to diversify our interests and various mining jurisdictions, just to be sure that we're targeting the strongest resource bases that we can.
Okay. Then we better leave it at that point for now. Thanks for your time.